Good morning, church family. This is Pastor Stephen, and we're on day 81, reading through Deuteronomy 32 through 34 and Psalms 91. And here we come to the end of Deuteronomy and the end of Moses' life on earth. Before he dies in chapter 31 from yesterday's readings, God commands Moses to write down the words of a song and instructs him to teach the words to the children of Israel, to put it in their mouths as a witness for God against them. And the content of the song in chapter 32 is the last message to the children of Israel before they enter the promised land. In the beginning of the song, God reminds us who he is. We are to ascribe greatness to him. He is the rock. His work is perfect. All his ways are justice. He's a God of truth and without injustice. Righteous and upright is he. This is important for them to remember, because when they turn away and the curse follows, they cannot look back and say that God is evil or that he is unjust. For God's work is perfect and he is just in all his ways. We see the reference rock in the New Testament as well with the parable of the wise man and the foolish man. The wise man builds his house upon the rock. Jesus is compared to the chief cornerstone in 1 Peter 2:7. Therefore, it's also contained in the scripture, "Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he who believes on him will by no means be put to shame. Therefore, to you who believe, he is precious, but to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone." He's actually called the chief cornerstone in 6 different passages in the New Testament, all of them referring to Psalm 118:22. He goes on to talk about Israel's rebellion, of God's faithfulness to his people, how they again turned away when they got comfortable, how God spurned or turned away from them and punished them, and then God's plea for them to return to himself. In chapter 3, Moses blesses the Israelites by tribe. And when I read this, it kind of reminded me almost of a father-to-son blessing. Moses has been with the Israelites for 80 years at this point. Through thick and thin, he interceded with them, he walked with them, he cared for them, he felt at times responsible for them, he loved them, and he blesses them right before he dies and is buried by God. In chapter 34, the servant of the Lord, Moses, dies on Mount Nebo. It states that his natural vigor had not diminished, nor had his eyes dimmed. And when God calls us to something, he's going to equip us to do that, no matter how long it takes, and our vigor will not diminish in what he's called us to do. He's going to enable us to the full extent to do that. And at 120 years old, Moses' body is still full of life. One of the other things that I saw in verse 9 was that Joshua was full of the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him. This was an impartation of God's spirit of wisdom to Joshua through Moses. Now, I don't believe that anointings can be transferred from one person to the next because no two anointings are the same. But I do believe that they can be stirred up by the anointed, and I think that's what we see going on here. And that's what the Israelites now see in Joshua, and they heeded him and did as the Lord commanded Moses. Now I want to go back to verse 29 in chapter 32 for just a minute. It says, "Oh, that they were wise, and that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. Oh, that they would consider their latter end, the result of their actions, the blessing or cursing that follows." I was a mischievous child growing up, to put it nicely, and whenever my father would discipline me for my actions, he would say, "Didn't you think it through?" Or, "Why didn't you think about the consequences of your actions?" Oh, that we would recognize this day that blessing or cursing has been set before us, that it's God's will. He wants to bless us, but he'll let us choose which one we'll have. That we would ponder that we have an opportunity to partner with the King of Kings and with the Lord of Lords, that we would continually consider our latter end and allow him to lead us in his paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Hey, church, God bless you today as you're reading through this, and just love you guys, and so glad that you're part of my family.